Sometimes the people closest to you will be the ones who hurt you the most. This is the story of Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob, and he was deeply loved by his father. So loved that Jacob made him a special robe, a richly ornamented coat that set him apart from all his brothers. And his brothers saw it. They felt it. To them, it wasn't just a robe. It was proof that they were less loved, and because of that, they hated him so much that they couldn't even speak to him peacefully. Then Joseph began to dream. One night, he saw himself and his brothers in a field, binding sheaves of grain, and suddenly their sheaves gathered around his and bowed down to it. Another time, he dreamed that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bowed down to him, and Joseph told his brothers. He even told his father. And his brothers became furious. "Do you intend to rule over us? Will you actually reign over us?" From that moment, their hatred grew deeper. Not long after, his brothers went out to graze their father's flocks near Shechem, and Jacob sent Joseph to go check on them. Joseph went, not knowing what was waiting for him. When his brothers saw him coming from a distance, they recognized that robe immediately, and before he even reached them, they began to plan. "Here comes that dreamer," they said. "Let's kill him and throw him into one of these pits." But Reuben, the oldest brother, stepped in. He didn't want Joseph killed, so he convinced them to throw Joseph into a pit instead, secretly planning to come back later and rescue him. So when Joseph arrived, they grabbed him. They stripped off his robe, the very thing that made him feel special, and they threw him into an empty pit. No water, no way out, just darkness and silence. And while Joseph was down there, they sat down to eat as if nothing had happened. Then they saw a caravan of traders passing by, Ishmaelites on their way to Egypt, and Judah said, "What do we gain if we kill him? Let's sell him instead." So they pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him for 20 pieces of silver. Just like that, their own brother became a slave, and Joseph was taken far away, to Egypt. Meanwhile, his brothers took his robe, dipped it in goat's blood, and brought it back to their father. "This is what we found," they said. "Examine it. Is it your son's robe?" Jacob recognized it immediately. "My son has been torn to pieces," and he mourned deeply, believing Joseph was dead. But Joseph was alive. In Egypt, he was sold again. This time, to a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Even as a slave, Joseph worked faithfully. He was diligent, he was trustworthy, and over time, Potiphar noticed. He placed Joseph in charge of his entire household. Everything he owned was under Joseph's care. But then, another test came. Potiphar's wife began to notice Joseph. He was young and well-built, and she tried to seduce him. "Come to bed with me," she said. But Joseph refused. He said, "My master trusts me with everything. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Day after day, she pressured him, until one day, when no one else was in the house, she grabbed him by his garment. But Joseph pulled away, leaving his garment behind, and ran. And that's when she lied. She called the men of the house and said, "This Hebrew came to make sport of us. He tried to force himself on me." She used the garment he left behind as evidence. When Potiphar heard this, he became furious, and Joseph was thrown into prison, not because he was guilty, but because of a lie. And just like that, everything he had built was gone again. Now Joseph was a prisoner, but even in prison, he didn't give up. He remained faithful. and the prison warden noticed him. Soon, Joseph was put in charge of all the prisoners. Even there, he was trusted. One day, 2 of Pharaoh's officials were brought into the prison, the cupbearer and the baker. Both of them had dreams, and Joseph interpreted them. To the cupbearer, he said, "In 3 days, you will be restored to your position." And to the baker, he said, "In 3 days, you will be executed." And it happened exactly like that. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph made one request: "Please remember me and mention me to Pharaoh, so I can get out of here." But the cupbearer forgot him. For 2 whole years, Joseph remained in prison, forgotten, until one night, Pharaoh himself had troubling dreams. No one could interpret them. And then, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh, and with clarity, he explained the dreams. 7 years of abundance were coming, followed by 7 years of severe famine. And Joseph didn't just interpret the dream, he gave a solution. "Store food during the years of plenty," he said, "so the nation can survive the famine." Pharaoh was impressed, so impressed that he made Joseph second in command over all Egypt, from prisoner to ruler. And when the famine came, people from all lands traveled to Egypt to buy food, including Joseph's brothers. They stood before him, but they didn't recognize him. The brother they sold was now the man in power, and Joseph had every reason to take revenge. But instead, he chose something else. He revealed himself to them. "I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into Egypt." They were terrified, but Joseph said something they would never forget. "Do not be afraid. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done. And instead of punishing them, He forgave them, He provided for them, and He brought his family back together." And that's how a boy who was betrayed, lied about, sold, and forgotten became one of the most powerful men in the world.